Assalamu alaikum everyone. I'm Hafsa Shoresh. I'm going to be the moderator for today's session. We'll begin the panel discussion. I would request the panelists to please introduce themselves. So we'll be starting with Mr. Imran first.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Imran Sarwar. I'm currently the CEO of RUB, which is a social enterprise working in the education space. What we basically do is we deliver year-long programs as well as short intensive trainings focusing on building 4 core competencies: critical thinking, empathy, creativity, and self-confidence. That is what I have been doing for the last 3 to 4 years, and yeah, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Insia Sayyed. I'm a freelance photographer, photojournalist. I work for AP Images, Reuters, and Getty Global Assignments, and yeah, I'm a photographer.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Benji Williams. I am basically from California. I've been in Pakistan since 2010. Initially I was an Acumen Fellow, and after doing my MBA back in California, I moved back to Lahore 2013 and set up an institution called Amal Academy. And essentially, Amal Academy is working to help develop more holistic students by developing their learning abilities, by developing their mindsets and their skills. And right now we have a 3-month career prep fellowship program. It's sort of like a mini MBA. Some of our fellows are in the audience today. And essentially, we are working on helping those students transition from the university into the job market. And so developing the skills, mindsets, and learning abilities that are really important for getting a job and being successful, both in your career and hopefully in your life. And Yasir is one of our advisors, so really glad to be on the panel. Imran is one of our partners and collaborators, so really looking forward to the conversation.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Yasir Bashir. I consider myself a veteran of the local technology industry in Lahore. I've been a part of this industry for almost 18 years now, and I was very fortunate to be a part of some really entrepreneurial companies that started in this industry. And then about 9 years ago, I started my own tech company around Run. We build products, some of them for ourselves and some for our partners in the technology space. And specifically, one of the verticals that has become really important for us over the years is education. So we build a lot of education products in the technology space.
Thank you, Asir. I'll briefly introduce myself as well. Like I said, I'm Hafsa Shoresh. I'm currently the director at Planix, which is a business accelerator for mid-stage startups. It's a project of Punjab Information Technology Board, and I'm also looking after MIT Enterprise Forum Pakistan, which is an initiative that promotes entrepreneurship in general in Pakistan. So over to the discussion now. We'll be talking lots and lots about innovation, technology, education, and entrepreneurship today. So first, it's a question for the entire panel. So the first question is, what is missing in our society that encourages entrepreneurship and innovation in general? So if anyone would like to answer that. Imran, please do the honors.
Yeah, it's a simple question, the 2-minute answer, right?
Yes.
What is missing that encourages entrepreneurship and
what is missing in our society that encourages innovation and entrepreneurship in general? Like in US, UK, they are, sorry to cut you, but just giving you the pretext. Like in US and UK and abroad, like parents they encourage lemonade stalls, they encourage bake sales. So over here, we don't see that often. So what is missing in our society in general?
I think one of the biggest things that comes to my mind, like just when I start thinking about this is, and that is something that we try to work on as well, is there's a very tough culture around failure. We don't encourage experimentation. We don't encourage going out and making yourself uncomfortable, which comes from our tendency as parents, as educators, to give the best to our future generation, right? But that best was defined for us maybe 20 years ago. That best is not going to be the best 20 years from now. So that culture around just going out and experimenting and failing and being fine with failing, that I think is a cultural norm that we want to challenge, not just in terms of how we operate as a society, but how we operate as an education system as well. That thought that if I try something and it's fine if it doesn't work out, I will learn from it and I'll go on and do something new. I think that's a big barrier. Not having that mindset is a big barrier to innovation in general and entrepreneurship as well.
Thank you, Imran. So Benji, taking this further, how do we teach students about failures? Like, how do students learn perseverance and grit as a skill? Because in Silicon Valley, and you have been to California, like over there, it's like it's a badge of honor. It's like a battle scar. So we don't see that kind of mindset here. So how can we address this issue? How can we teach students and parents as well the importance of failure, like it's a learning experience?
Yeah, thanks for that question, and Imran for your comments. I think failure is one of those things you can only learn by doing. You only learn how to be a failure by being a failure. And it might not seem like an aspirational thing. Why would you want to be a failure, like Imran said? But I think this mindset needs to shift on how we treat failure, and thinking about maybe there are a fixed number of failures you have to have until you're a success. And so perhaps you should just get it over with, start failing as soon as possible, so you can get those 10 failures done before the 11th opportunity comes along. And so for example, in our UML fellowship, one of the things that we have is this principle of just starting, which is coming up with some idea, or maybe you've always had that idea, and doing something very small towards making progress on that idea. So if you want to help your village, maybe you just go and find one person in that village that you could help give some one-on-one counseling, how you got into university and perhaps how they could go that same route. And maybe it turns out to be a failure because that person is not really interested in your advice. And so then you could see that, okay, maybe this intervention needs to be tweaked. And so maybe perhaps next time, instead of trying to give someone one-on-one counseling advice, you might host like an activity where you bring in like 5 people and you just kind of have a discussion around what are your goals and aspirations. And perhaps that's a failure because for whatever reason. But the point is that you just get out there, you try something, you realize that it's not that successful as you hoped, and more importantly, you realize that failure is not such this taboo thing where it's like, oh my God, I'm a failure, I can't do anything else, and now I've been put in this bucket. And so kind of de-stigmatizing or breaking the stigma around failure can only be done, I think, by getting out there and failing yourself.
Okay, would anyone would like to share any experience, something that has been close to the heart and you
I
have
might be the
failed at
poster
it?
child for failures, so let me take this. So I was studying and I was in my O-levels when I got a job offer from GeoTV. Now those of you who are from Pakistan know that GeoTV is like, अगर आप Geo में काम कर रहे हैं तो आप like upset. So I told my father that I'm still in my O-levels, but I'm getting this offer to like be a script writer for a music show. And he said, obviously like any normal father would, that you need to finish your education, whatever. I was the 4th in the sibling category, so I was the last child. So I thought that I had room basically because all my other siblings had studied really well. I said, okay, let me take this chance. Let me work for 6 months. If it doesn't work out, I go back to finishing my degree. He said, okay, fine. I ended up working when I was maybe like 20. I was younger actually, was 18, 17. And I started writing this script, and from then onwards, this is 2004, I've been working ever since. I never went back to school. So I finished my O-levels privately, I finished my A-levels privately. When I was leaving GeoTV, my father said that this is the worst decision that you've made for your career, because GeoTV में लोग काम करने के लिए मरते हैं. And I started my photography company with a friend of mine, Sitwat Rizvi. And we started shooting weddings. And for my parents, it was like, who shoots weddings? Like in Pakistan, as a girl, that's just the worst career choice. This is end of 2008, 2009. And 5 years later, both Sitwat and myself, we had shot weddings in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Mauritius. People were paying us to go to Mauritius and shoot someone's wedding. So I'm not, again, elaborating on what, on talking about failures. Yes, I was successful in taking a chance and starting my own company. Everyone else might not be. But then again, you won't find out if you will succeed at something unless and until you give it a shot. Many years later, like 6-7 years later, I'm now shooting for 3 of the top news agencies in the world, and it worked out. And it worked out pretty all right. Like I can pay my bills and I don't have to. So you've got to take chances, because if you don't, you just don't find out what you're capable of doing.
And
That's
just to that point, I mean, just to really sum up what Benji and Insia and Anand have said, I think giving our kids the realization that the world is really changing rapidly is important, and taking risks is not just something that you do as opposed to playing it safe. It's actually absolutely a necessity. One of my favorite quotes comes from one of my favorite entrepreneurs, this guy named Reid Hoffman that many of you would have heard of. He's the CEO of LinkedIn. And one of his famous quotes says that in an ever-changing world, playing it safe may be one of the riskiest things that you can do. So I think this is what all of our participants have experienced for themselves. And personally, I mean, whenever I talk about failure, I tell people that there are 2 reasons that I ended up starting the company. One was that I actually worked for companies that were really entrepreneurial and really good companies to work for. But secondly, that they failed fantastically. If they hadn't failed, I'd probably still be in the job. So the reason that I worked for, the fact that I worked for companies that failed actually led me to start my own company as well. So I think that's important to see.
Thank you so much. Yasser, the question is for you. How do you define and measure innovation? Since you have been around, like you said, for 18 years in the industry, so you must be like a guru. So how do you keep a pulse on these radical changes?
So I think it's a very hard question. Like, what is innovation? And where do you draw the line between, okay, is this an incremental improvement in something, or is it a radical change? In my career, I've seen several paradigm shifts in several areas. So, for example, in the technology space, access to information has completely changed from what it was 18 years ago. In the software space, for example, we started with things like desktop applications and desktops that weren't connected with anything, right? And then those desktops got connected, and we went to web applications. So you could go to a browser and actually use an application. And then from a web application, it all went to the mobile, because everybody got access to the mobile. So I mean, one big innovation I see these days happen, and again, I don't think there's a hard and fast line that you can draw between these things. I mean, the boundaries are often fuzzy, but a huge innovation happening right now is, from mobile application that people use to a huge shift to things that are based on artificial intelligence, for example. So that's a huge innovation in the technology space right now. Self-driving cars, intelligent bots are going to be, the next wave of technology innovation that's happening around the world. So it's hard to say, I mean, where that boundary changes. I mean, the whole Uberification of everything was the innovation in the last few years. Usually one of the things that I've noticed is that people who bring innovation in a new field of industry are people who have taken a risk to do something that they have very little idea about, which is another, let's say, alarm bell in my mind, that if somebody is doing something that they haven't tried before, then they'll probably do it differently. My first company, which was a really entrepreneurial company, was making invisible bracelets. And the guy who started the company had no clue, no idea about dentistry or about orthodontics or the whole business of straightening teeth. He went to get braces, and he thought that it was a really painful, really difficult process. And he said, how come nobody has thought about changing this? So I think usually I get excited about innovation when I see somebody doing something that they're probably not tuned to doing, and that's a pretty good signal for me that it's going to be something exciting.
Okay, building on that, I also personally very much interested in knowing about the dark side of innovation. Like, how is it isolating us as human beings? Would you like to comment on that? For example, like all these tech products, they work so hard in creating this engagement. So how is this impacting us? So there is a dark side of everything. So what is the dark side of innovation?
I don't normally argue for the dark side, right? I normally argue against because I'm a technologist. I think technology has brought the world closer in many more ways than it has created distances. There's a little bit of a dehumanization that we all get concerned about, but I think that is, technology itself may actually change that. And one of the examples, Imran was talking about it when you were talking in the morning, is the whole Pokemon Go thing, right? So you have games where people get sucked into a game and then they never talk to their parents and their siblings and their friends. But Pokemon Go was a technology solution to it, which brought a lot of people who never knew each other together. I mean, it's a technology solution to people meeting complete random strangers and forming bonds and friendships. Uber is a similar example. Uber is a technology solution to people connecting as well as hailing cabs and rides. And I've known many people who formed relationships, not relationships, but who formed camaraderies with their Uber drivers, who've connected with them and who've done business with them. I'm an example of that. I took an Uber ride I shared an Uber ride from Manhattan to the JFK airport. It was an hour-long ride. And the guy sitting with me turned out to be somebody in the technology space, and we struck a conversation, exchanged notes, exchanged cards, and exchanged emails, and we may be working together in the future. So I'm definitely one of those people who wouldn't argue that technology is darker than it is. Right? I think in many ways, in most ways it has done well, but I'm sure there's going to be a difference of opinion there on that.
Anyone else would like to comment on it?
So not exactly on this, but like related to this, and I would want everyone to have comments on this as well. So we are talking about the dark side of technology, but I want to talk about the dark side of entrepreneurship. It's pretty dark when the light goes off. And there are a lot of challenges. There was an article in The Atlantic, I think a year back or 2 years back, on the emotional baggage of entrepreneurship that people don't really talk about. How there's isolation, there's obviously a lot of financial challenges. I'm talking about both entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship. And one of the things that has hit me recently, that I am not my business. It took about 3 years to realize that, because when it's doing well, you are doing well psychologically as well. But when it's not doing well, you really go down into the dumps. And those are the kind of wake-up calls that can also be termed as failures, mini failures, which sort of like get you to pivot around and realize that you at some point have to separate your own identity. But it's really difficult. It's when things go bad at work, all things go bad and tend to go bad in life as well. And I think like that's a challenge that you need experience to overcome. And if other people can add on that, because there were certainly smiles when I mentioned this.
I can add on that. There's this quote that I read, which is referencing Fight Club, the movie. And it said that the first rule of the CEO meltdown is that you don't talk about the CEO meltdown. And I think the point is that entrepreneurship is always incredibly difficult, and you feel very emotionally connected to the project or the initiative that you're working on. Life is very difficult, period. A job is difficult, family is difficult. And the more you feel connected or passionate about that thing, of course, the heavier it will weigh on you when things are tough. And I think for me, Yasser talked about a couple of the failures that he had been involved with. I've been involved in some failures, and those are tough. But probably what's even more tough is when your venture is growing and it's quote-unquote successful, but you know you could be doing a lot more, and there are a lot of challenges, and on the surface it looks fine, but underneath the hood, you're concerned about so many different parts. And so I think one of the encouragements that I would give to students talking about this idea of the school of tomorrow is really developing the mindset around managing that toughness, which is to say this idea of grit, this idea of perseverance, this idea of hard work, developing these abilities, these mindsets, these skill sets, so that when you face those challenges, either on the job or in your company or in your family life, you're better equipped to push through those storms or to weather those storms. And so just a quick example again from our fellowship, how to exactly do that. I think it's very similar to this idea of failure, which is you develop the mindsets by just throwing yourself into the thick of things and experiencing what that failure feels like. And then being thoughtful about writing down or processing your thoughts and experiences during those failures. So one of the things we do a lot in our fellowship is a lot of reflective writing, blogging, and thinking about what was that experience like, what did I learn from that experience, how was it difficult, how can I do it differently the next time. There's this famous quote that the unexamined life is one not worth living. And so examine life and examine what you've learned from that thing. And then try and make sure that you improve yourself moving forward.
Thank you, Benji. Insi, I have a question for you. Like, how do young people go out and they look for problems and convert them into opportunities? Like, we were talking about challenges and all these things. So we have a lot of parents sitting here in the audience. So this is a question, maybe you could answer their reservations as well. So how do students go out? For example, you were just an O-level student and there's this opportunity that came along and then you convinced your dad.
Right.
So how do students in general?
I think it's very important to understand. I think parents, if you use them as a prop and think of them as your potential bosses, your life would be really good. Because when you enter the real life, a lot of times, and I'm sure the rest of the panel will agree, that it's all about pitching ideas. And it's all about hearing a big no, that no, you can't do this. So I will walk up to someone and say, oh, I have an idea, and chances are that I will be told that no, this isn't possible, or how will you be able to finish this or finish what you start. So I think if we start taking our parents as people who are our bosses, it will make for a great sort of like a court case. It can become a sitcom almost, because every day your parents say no to mostly everything that you put in front of them. So if you learn to fight them off, chances are you will learn to fight everyone off. And our parents say no to everything. They say no to vacations, they say no to time off, they say no to sleeping too late. They say no to pretty much everything from the time that our day starts to the time that our day ends. They say no to not eating, don't eat out too much, start cooking for yourself. So I think if I am to talk about myself, I will say that we use our parents and we use these social stigmas as excuses more than anything else, especially now in this day and age when there's Facebook, which has now, literally changed the way Facebook used to work. Facebook was a social network, whereas now it's almost like a business network where you use Facebook as a way to promote your businesses. I don't have a website for my wedding photography business. We only use Facebook to promote our work. So I would really say that, you're all saying, how do you change, how do you create opportunities? I would say that opportunities are right there. You just need to sort of explore them intelligently. It's not that difficult to start your own thing anymore. Pehle ke zamane mein, yes, it used to be a lot more difficult because there were no avenues to be able to market yourself. Now we can't really, we can't use any excuses. We have Twitter, we have Facebook, we have all these social networks that are literally like, he's saying that, you sit in an Uber, you make a contact. We're sitting in a room of 100 people right now. Chances are there are at least 2 people in this room that I might potentially work with in the future. So it's really about exploring your potential more than anything else.
Sticking to technology side of the discussion now, could you just share how the Instagram filters, how these camera phones have changed the photography landscape for you. Like you being the photographer, like Kodak became so irrelevant because they didn't embrace digital.
Right.
So why don't you talk about that? Like, if
I
you could
think the
share
best
your
example that I
thoughts.
can give is that I personally don't like using my DSLR anymore because I feel it's so heavy. And I would prefer using a phone camera at any point of the day. In fact, there's this photographer, Benjamin Lowy, who was hired by Time magazine to shoot the cover with his iPhone camera. So, I mean, technology is moving way too fast, and magazines and newspapers are now realizing the fact that it's all about speed. So a lot of times they don't want a really good high resolution raw file as opposed to getting an image out there. In fact, the person who photographed, when Benazir Bhutto was shot dead, that image alone, I don't remember the exact amount he made, but it was a phone like he took a picture on a phone that got sold to BBC, CNN, Reuters, AP, like the world bought that image. And it was through a phone. Most of the breaking news, CNN now has a citizen journalist thing on their website where you actually contribute your images that you've taken on your phone and you disseminate them because you want to put them out fast, because the amount of time it takes to email a picture from your phone is much, much, much quicker than taking out a memory card, putting it in your laptop, converting the file, and then sending an email. The way to send out an image has become a lot faster through a phone. So I don't even know the number of images that we see on a daily basis on our Facebook anymore. We're swiping through millions and millions and millions of images every single day, as opposed to a time when सुबह एक अखबार आता था and you would see 50 images in the newspaper, and that was the only sort of news that you'd see in the duration of the day, as opposed to now when there are news channels using Twitter and Instagram, especially Instagram stories now, as a way to break their stories before they even put them out on TV channels or print them or put them online on Facebook or on their website. So technology is moving faster than we can catch up to it, I think.
Yasser sir, the question is for you. How can we improve, the quality of education through innovation in education? For example, we have the examples of Khan Academy and all these. So how do you think it's relevant in Pakistan?
I think one of the things that I feel are really retarding or prohibiting the growth of innovation in Pakistan is this whole notion of, and building on what Insia said, this whole notion of design thinking. So I think that's seriously lacking in our curriculum at all levels. So there's no product design. I haven't come across a good product design program in any of the colleges. And it's really, really important. It's really important to not be satisfied with the state of the world as it is. And that's the kind of curiosity that we are not promoting enough. The funny example, when I used to work with the teeth straightening company, right? So I got to learn what an aesthetically pleasing dental arch is, like how should your teeth actually look like. So people would be talking to me and I'd be thinking, this person has a crossbite. They need this is how they need to fix, or really, their teeth are flared and they need to close that gap. So that kind of the state of being dissatisfied with the state of the world, I think is really important, and that's one of the things that has kept us low on the spectrum of innovation. So that's one of the things. I think it can be bridged a little bit. On the school and university level, I definitely see a huge need for including design thinking as part of the curriculum, product design, usability, these kinds of things. I've seen some examples of where online education has bridged that gap, really good examples as well. So there is now access available, and I think the least a school can do or a university can do is to enable that access for the students. As an organization, we do that a lot. I think organizations can do that a lot as well. So we encourage our people to definitely reach out to resources. Our academy is at the school level, but there are many resources at the college level and at the post-college level that you can utilize to actually enhance your design and innovation thinking. And I think that's something that can definitely help us be more innovative.
Great. Benji, so would you like to share something regarding, like, do you agree with this, that is the education system in Pakistan promoting and supporting entrepreneurship? Because, like, again, the place that we're sitting, again, we are like the 10% privileged class that has the access to good education. So how can we promote and support entrepreneurship on the grassroots level? Maybe Benji or Imran can share their thoughts on this.
Sure, yeah, I'd love to hear Imran's thoughts. I'll share a few from my side as well. I think that before you can promote entrepreneurship or before you can prepare someone to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to be able to prepare them to be successful in the job. You have to be able to be a successful employee before you can be a successful entrepreneur. And that is to say that a lot of our fellows ask us, why don't you teach more about entrepreneurship, how to become an entrepreneur? And I think we have a responsibility as an organization to develop skills that will help someone be successful on the job first. Because if you can't manage your time, if you can't have a professional conversation, if you can't work extra hours when you're trying to reach a deadline, then you will have a really, really difficult time as an entrepreneur. And these are all skills that you have to learn in order to be successful on the job, and which I feel we are working on as an education system. And we have some progress to be made. And so I think in terms of what I would love to see in the education system is really focusing on three things. One is the mindsets, which is this idea of grit, perseverance, being able to work really, really hard to achieve something. Secondly is the learning abilities, which is being able to learn by yourself without a teacher or a professor sitting in front of you, being able to learn from the people that are around you, whether it's in your company or whether it's your customers if you're an entrepreneur. And then finally, it's those business skills like communication, professional writing, leadership, problem solving, especially problem solving. And so these three things I think are really critical, both for getting a job and eventually for becoming an entrepreneur. So when people ask, should I become an entrepreneur right out of university, I think it's really important that you develop these three areas: mindsets, learning abilities, and skill sets. And I would really love to see, and I'm excited to see we're making progress, the university system especially, and the school system, really preparing people and developing these abilities within the youth.
Yeah, so I perfectly agree with what Benji just said, and just linking it to what Yasir was talking about earlier in terms of mindset. What is the reason that Khan Academy has been successful? Exactly what you talk about design thinking, but essentially it's not about the technology at the end of the day, it's about the human. Khan Academy wouldn't be that successful if they aren't thinking about the human who is using that technology. So we can't just talk about technology in education, entrepreneurship in education without taking into account what does that human look like for which we are making this product. And unfortunately right now, a lot of our policies as well as programs, interventions, whatever we are doing, we are making them from a very removed mindset. We aren't really putting ourselves in the shoes of the people who are going to be using this. A lot of times when education policy is being talked about, nobody asks a child, how do you want to get educated? And that sort of baffles me. We aren't really putting the human at the center of it. So that I think is the reason why when we talk about technology in education, a lot of interventions that we see nowadays, they don't really work out as they should because they don't think about who the end user is going to be. Similarly with entrepreneurship, I don't think everyone should be wanting to become an entrepreneur just for the heck of it. It's unfortunately become one of those buzzwords. You really, really need to be working on the mindsets that Benji is talking about. And then you can be an entrepreneur, you can be an intrapreneur, you can just be doing something really differently within your organization. And that is something that we talk about in our coursework that we do on adaptive leadership, that like you don't need to be in a position of authority to be practicing leadership. And if you're able to develop that mindset among students, among teachers, among the society at large, that you need to be able to connect with people. You need to be able to be professional. You need to be able to problem solve. And then like things will sort of work out in your life. And you might become an entrepreneur, you might not. But you'll be doing something exciting, you'll be doing something worthwhile. You'll be doing something which I sort of joke about it, but sometimes I say that a measure of a good life is that at the end of the day, can you write a book on it? And that isn't just a virtue of how you led your life, it is also a virtue of how you examine your life to be able to write a book on it. So if we are able to develop these competencies, we will see entrepreneurs, we will see really good CEOs, we will see really good managers, we will see really good political leaders, we will see really good social leaders, and not just entrepreneurs in the limited sense of the word.
Like I agree with all of you. I have worked with startups for the last 4 years. There are pros and cons of this ecosystem. For example, how do you address this issue? For example, we get students from NUS, graduates of NUS, from GIK. Their parents, like they even look down on the word startup and entrepreneurship in general. So how do you address such an issue? Because if you don't have support from back home, you can't really do well in professional life either. So this whole mindset game again, and then once, I know it sounds really cliche, but how do we find our true talent as students? Like how do we figure out that do we need to write codes, or do we need to do graphics, or do we need to do sales? Because there is no formal training for that right after school and college. Things have changed, they are evolving, we have initiatives in the public and private sector, but I think even parents need to play a bigger role and they need to be more engaged with their students' education. So how do you address that? And I left all the panelists speechless.
I can give it a shot. I think to your second question, Steve Jobs had good advice, right? I mean, he said keep trying out many different things. That's the way to be in today's world anyway. Unless you've really discovered what your passion is, just keep trying those things out, and one of those things will stick. And access to information has changed so much that the cost of trying new things out has actually gone really down compared with our technical times. So for example, if you wanted to learn to play the guitar today, you'll get a ton of YouTube lessons that wouldn't have been available back in our days, right? So I think the cost of trying things out has gone down a whole lot, and people should be doing a lot of different things, not just studying their physics, chemistry, and biology. They should be doing a lot of different things to find out where their sweet spot is. So that's your second question. The first question is, how do parents start looking at startups and entrepreneurship? For the ones who are cut out for it, I completely agree with Imran and Benji also, that not everybody is cut out for entrepreneurship. But how do they start encouraging kids that are cut out for it? I think I'm very optimistic and bullish on it. I think it's only a matter of time. All you need is one or two breakout success stories, which we, unfortunately, indigenously haven't had yet. But we are getting closer every day. I mean, last year, for the first time, you know it, companies in Pakistan technology companies in Pakistan raised money in excess of millions of dollars. For the first time, I hadn't seen precedent of that before that. So now it's only a matter of time that one of those companies that raised $5 million, unheard of, from an investor outside of Pakistan, is going to make several of their people, they become like $100 million, $1 billion company, and make several of their people really move out from one startup society to the next. And that would convince parents also that, yes, this is kind of a high-risk avenue, but the returns would also be really high. So one or two of those success stories, and we get closer to them every day. The pace at which we get closer to those success stories has also accelerated, in my opinion. I mean, I've seen things happen in the last 3 years that I hadn't seen happen in the 15 years before that. So it's going to change very quickly. I think parents just need to be open-minded and keep reading up on what is happening in the ecosystem. It will encourage them a lot.
I'll just add to building on what Yasser said, and something that Insia mentioned earlier about treating your parents as bosses. there shouldn't be an expectation that parents will be fine with whatever they want to do. Yeah, like this period, like it shouldn't be there. You should have to prove that point, right? I'll just share my own, a short story. I came back from the US after doing a degree in public policy. The expectation was that I'll be working in something like the World Bank or the UN. Right now I'm really glad that I didn't do that. But in the first 2 or 3 months after I came back, my parents from time to time, they have been really, really, really supportive. But they were like, do you want to do this part-time and maybe do something else full-time? Are you sure about this? In their minds, I'm sure they would be like, who is going to marry this guy? But like over the next 2-3 months, I just stuck to my guns. I decided to just figure out like whether this will work out or not. And I remember like one evening, a friend of my father's was over at our house, and he was just asking, "Acha, bacha kya kar raha hai?" So like, what is he doing nowadays? And he told him that like he's doing this thing on his own, and the friend got really worried that like what is this? Like he's not able to get a job, and he's my friend's son. Like I should get a job for him. Like he started making calls to Karachi, Islamabad, and other places. And my father sort of like interjected him in the middle, and he's like, no. Like he actually gave an explanation of Rab to him that I have never been able to give myself. He gave like a really good one-minute pitch. And at that time in my mind, I was like, like that transformation has taken place where he's willing to stand up for me and describe to the people what I'm doing. So it's not going to be easy. And definitely it's going to be harder for some people. But I think like it takes time. You have to show your commitment level, because the biggest thing that parents or like other people who are advising you against this, what they fear is that this is just like a 2-3 month fling. So once you're able to show that commitment beyond that, I think like the attitude changes on both sides.
So the Pakistani engineers, like all are graduates, they work for Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, everywhere, they're all over. So Pakistanis tend to do well, really well individually, right? So I have a question for Insia or Benji, I forgot the question though. Give me a second. I wanted to ask, for example, like we do really well individually, but not that so much institutionally. So how has Pakistan been a land of opportunity for you? So you came back, you moved back. So in terms of technology innovation, because that's what people keep saying, even if you do well in school or college, you tend to go abroad and get a job there. So how has Pakistan been a land of opportunity for you? And what would you like to say to the audience so that they can also maybe move back and contribute back to the ecosystem?
Sure. I think this audience is here already, so you guys probably know the potential and the opportunities. But I would say that in many ways I feel that the opportunities in Pakistan are much greater than the opportunities are, I can speak about my home country, which is California. And it is to say that the entrepreneurship space is much further developed there. And I think you could like point to Pakistan and say, oh, we're so far behind. And that's the glass is, half empty kind of perspective. But going back to mindsets, the glass half full kind of perspective is Pakistan has massive opportunity to do anything, almost anything that you want. And that's incredibly exciting. We have this story in our fellowship of an entrepreneur who goes to Africa. He makes shoes, and he sees that there is nobody wearing shoes. And so he comes back to his country and says, there's no opportunity, no one wears shoes. And then another entrepreneurship goes there and he says, you already know the end of the story because you're laughing. He says, nobody's wearing shoes. It's a massive opportunity. It's a completely untapped market. And so I think that's the entrepreneurship mindset that we need to have, which is looking at problems as opportunities. And going back to this discussion around the parents, this is a same problem that happens in the US less frequently, but used to happen much more frequently, which is to say that there's hope as well for the situation here, that we're still early stages. And so I was just reading a book about Phil Knight, who you guys know is the founder of Nike Shoes. And Nike Shoes is everywhere. It's one of the most famous brands in the world. But for the first 5, 6, 7 years of Phil Knight's venture, his father was like, what are you doing? Why are you wasting your career? Why are you wasting your education on this like shoe company? This has no potential. And so this, of course, was like in the 60s, and that was a long time ago, and now perspectives have changed, and parents are a little bit more open to entrepreneurship. And so what I want to say, I guess, is to have hope and to have optimism for where the landscape is here in Pakistan, that there are so many opportunities, there are so many people, metaphorically speaking, who aren't wearing shoes, so many opportunities to do something different. And to try and look at those problems as that, as opportunities, and not just as, oh, this is really frustrating, this is a big problem that we have.
Thank you, Benji. I'll be taking questions now. Do we have any questions in the audience? Please raise your hand. Okay, so we do have a couple of questions. Okay, so I'll read out the question, any one of you can answer. Is entrepreneurship something you can try out along with a job, or is it a full-time job on its own?
So my perspective is going to be a little bit biased. I think when choosing a job, try choosing an organization that's an entrepreneurial organization, and then hopefully that organization will give you an opportunity to try it out. Google famously has the 80-20 program where anyone in Google can spend 80% of their time doing their job, and one day a week they can do whatever they want to do. Eventually, if your project is successful, Google will take that project up as a Google project, and then basically make you a partner in that product. Many of the Google products that many of us use and love every day, like Gmail, were started by people who actually at Google and just wanted to build a product. So at our company, we have something similar. We've already had at least 2 or 3 different startups that have spun out of the company. One of them is Savali, which you know of really well as well. So we definitely create opportunities for our people to go beyond just an employment and do something that they can, go to own and build. And I think it's worked out well. I think there's definitely vested interest for us there as well, because if we become an organization that's encouraging other people to start bigger and better things, it grows us as an organization as well. So definitely, if you choose the right company, that opportunity exists.
So we have lots of questions. Anyone can answer this one. Are there any tips to overcome failure? It's unstoppable and it does affect your life, and everyone is not as optimistic as you would be. So, any tips to overcome failure? Personal tips that you have might use?
I think one of the things that worked out really well for me right now as well is just talking to people. A lot of times we go in our sort of cocoon, we go into this self-pity mode, which and we start writing poetry and stuff, which you later look at that and you're like what was I thinking? Maybe that happened to me. But it really helps in terms of like just going out and talking to people that you trust. Talking to people that are sort of going through the same challenges, because there are a lot of them. I think one of the things that I didn't realize until I started doing what I'm doing right now is that once you take that leap of faith, there will be all sorts of people who like jump in to support you. I mean, they're sitting at the table here right now. So there will be a lot of people who will be willing to listen to you, who will be willing to not necessarily give advice. I think like that's also something that we do. We want advice. If you have someone just listen to you, even that works out well. And then like you will gradually move out of it and also realize that it's just a phase. It will pass, as all good and bad things in life pass.
Thank you, Imran. There's a question. It is, what is that one thing that keeps you going against so many odds? What's that one thing? What's the secret sauce?
I think just the sense of achievement, like that you do. I think as a society, what we also promote and encourage is this herd mentality that whatever everybody else is doing, just keep doing that because that's an easy way out and that's a system that's already been made. So just follow and you will be successful. I think it's very important to leave that herd from time to time and explore your own potential. And I think human beings just generally, and sort of like going back to that discussion about helping even parents, educating parents to move with time is also very important for all the students who are here. That's something that I've done. My mom was averse to using a phone. I just recently got her a tablet. And now when I go over, she doesn't have time for me because she's always on Pinterest. Or she's always on these food websites. The other day she suggested that maybe I can start like a food thing from home because there's so many people who are cooking like these lunch boxes and like sending them off to offices, and you don't need any manpower for that. You basically only need a motorcycle and a rider who can deliver your lunch to offices. So it's very, very easy to sort of do something on your own now, not limited to time, not limited to space. The number of women in Pakistan who bake cakes now has raised like exponentially because of Facebook. Because if there wasn't any Facebook, women will not be able to sell their cakes. They will have to eat them. So now you can make a cake and make money off of it. So I mean, there's lots of things that you can do, and really, if anything is stopping you, it's yourself. If you're scared of failing at something, really you're missing out on life because it might sort of hurt you. You might become very insecure. I think as entrepreneurs, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I'm the most insecure person in this room right now because I'm always thinking that there are other people in this room who have better cameras than I do. Like I can already see like 1, 2, 3 cameramen here who definitely have better cameras than I do. So what will set me apart is that how they're looking is not how I will look at something. The way they're taking a picture is not how I will take a picture. So every human being is different. The way we see things is very different. So I think it's very important to like sort of, like they said, self-examine yourself and see what your strength is, and then just play with it. There's lots of room to play. So yeah.
Thank you, Insia. I think this is more like a comment. If you keep failing again and again, but you're still not motivated, you still don't work hard enough, what is wrong here? So I think we have answered the question itself. So the last question would be, is it better to work for a big entrepreneurial venture or to start your own venture? So this is one question that bothers everyone. Who would like to answer? Did you all either?
I mean, I can say that, for instance, I do my own freelance practice as a photographer, but I'm also working as a freelance photojournalist for these big agencies, which is Reuters, AP Images, and Getty Global Assignments. But when I was signing the contract with them, I ensured that I let them know that I have my own practice. Because there's nothing better and nothing worse than being your own boss. Because you set your own rules, then you break your own rules, then you make your own new rules. So it's actually very, very entertaining, and it's a lot of fun living every day in a way that you haven't lived the previous day. Setting your own rules, waking up whenever you want to. But then if you get an assignment, like for instance, I just recently worked for an assignment for UN for their 70th anniversary. I was shooting a campaign. And they gave me a call and they said that the shoot is from the 6th of June till the 12th of June. So it was a 6-day spell. And I said, I'm really sorry, but I'm getting married on the 6th of June. So is there any possibility that we can move the date around? And they moved it to the 8th of June. So I got married. I had a day to myself on the 7th. And on the 8th, I was shooting somewhere in interior Sindh. I forget the name of the place because it was so hot. The weather, it felt like 55 degrees. And I had like mehndi on my hand, and there were people asking me, oh, did someone in your family get married? And I said, no, I got married. And this is my husband. So again, what it also gives is this sense of sort of ownership, because I suddenly owned my husband and I told him that, listen, I am shooting this assignment and I need an assistant and you are it. So you can involve your family and you can involve people that you work with every day to help you out, which you wouldn't otherwise be able to do if you're working in a corporate. You can't just take your, like, it's not like, oh, let me take my husband to work day every day. But it is for me. So it really, I mean, it's a lot of fun. But at the same time, there are lots of issues, there are lots of hard hurdles that you have to jump over because nobody else will help you but yourself.
Thank you, Insia. Thank you everyone for coming and attending this session. Now it's time to rate this session. Please don't leave. And I have many more questions left, but you can contact these panelists either on Facebook or Twitter, so make use of the technology. So thank you so much. Please, before you leave, rate the session. It's important. It's imperative.
I'm mandatory, right? Driver right now, and I'm
so that's the session code. 2202 is the session code. Please rate the session. The only options are 5 stars, 5 stars, and 5 stars. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.